I never thought I'd be the kind of person who tells this story. Not because it's dramatic, not because it's shocking, but because saying it out loud means admitting how wrong I was about someone I trusted. There are things we live with quietly, things we replay at night when everything finally slows down, things we never post, never explain, never fully admit. This is one of those things. For a long time, I believed that silence meant strength, that keeping things inside meant control. But silence doesn't disappear pain, it just teaches it how to echo. I met her during a season of my life where I wasn't searching for anything. No expectations, no future plans, no romantic ideas about the one. I had just come out of something that drained me more than I realized at the time, and I promised myself I would be careful next time. Slower, smarter, and that's exactly how she arrived. She didn't demand attention, didn't rush closeness, didn't try to impress anyone, she listened. And for some reason that felt rare. Our conversations weren't intense at first, just easy, light, comfortable, long talks that didn't need direction. Late nights where time disappeared without effort. She never pushed me to open up, never asked questions that felt invasive, never crossed emotional lines too quickly. And that's how trust forms, not through grand gestures, but through consistency. I started noticing small things, the way she remembered details I barely remembered saying, the way she noticed changes in my tone before I did. At first, it felt like care, like someone finally paying attention. I told myself, this is what emotional safety feels like. And because I felt safe, I shared parts of myself I usually kept hidden. Nothing dramatic, nothing that sounded like trauma in a movie, just real things, personal things. The kind of details that explain why you react the way you do, why you pull back when things feel too close, why silence can feel louder than words. There was one night in particular, I still remember it clearly. We weren't arguing, we weren't emotional, we were just talking, and something in me hesitated. I remember pausing before I said anything. That quiet moment where you decide whether to protect yourself or trust someone. She looked at me and said, "You don't have to tell me anything you're not ready to." And that sentence did something to me, so I told her, not everything, just one piece. Something I had never said out loud to anyone before. Something that shaped the way I love, the way I trust, the way I detach when things start to matter too much. When I finished, she didn't react immediately. No dramatic response, no advice, no judgment, just silence. Then she reached for my hand. That silence felt respectful. I thought she understood. After that night, things shifted. Not suddenly, not obviously, subtly. She became more attentive, but not in a warm way, in a precise way. She knew exactly when to reassure me, exactly when to pull back, exactly when to say nothing at all. At first, I appreciated it. Then, something about it started to feel off. During disagreements, she would repeat my own words back to me, not aggressively, almost gently. "You told me you're afraid of being abandoned. You said silence makes you anxious. You said you shut down when you feel cornered." Things I had trusted her with. It didn't feel like understanding anymore. It felt like strategy, but I ignored it, because that's what we do when we care. We rationalize, we soften red flags, we tell ourselves we're overthinking. The moment everything cracked wasn't dramatic. No shouting, no accusations. We were out with friends, just a casual night. Someone joked about relationships, about secrets, and she laughed and said something that made my stomach drop. One sentence, a reference to that story I told her, but with a detail I never shared. My chest tightened instantly, that quiet kind of panic that doesn't show on your face. Later that night I asked her about it, casually, carefully. "How did you know that part?" She didn't hesitate, didn't pause, didn't think. She smiled and said, "You told me." But I hadn't. I replayed that night over and over in my head, every word, every pause. I knew what I said, and I knew what I didn't. That was the moment I started paying attention. And once you start paying attention, you can't stop seeing it. She always seemed one step ahead of my emotions. When I pulled away, she already knew how to pull me back. When I questioned things, she redirected the conversation. When I felt uneasy, she reassured me using my own fears. It felt like being emotionally outmaneuvered. Like I wasn't being responded to, I was being anticipated. And that realization was terrifying, because it meant she wasn't protecting my vulnerability. She was using it. The confrontation wasn't explosive. No yelling, no tears. I asked her directly, "How do you know things I never told you?" She stayed calm, too calm, and said, "I just pay attention." That was it. No explanation, no denial, no accountability, just that. I didn't leave immediately. And that's the part people don't like to admit. Because when someone knows your deepest fears, walking away feels dangerous. She knew exactly what abandonment looked like to me, exactly how to make me doubt myself. So I stayed, quietly for a while. And during that time, I became someone I barely recognized. I started choosing my words carefully, not because I wanted to communicate better, but because I didn't want them used against me later. I stopped sharing things the moment they appeared in my head. I edited myself, filtered emotions, held back instincts, and that's when I realized something painful. I wasn't in a relationship anymore. I was in a psychological negotiation. Every reaction felt calculated. Every disagreement felt rehearsed. Like I was always one step behind a version of her that already knew the outcome. She could sense shifts in me before I could name them myself. When I grew distant, she became affectionate. When I became suspicious, she became vulnerable. When I felt strong, she became fragile. It was subtle, too subtle to explain to anyone else. And that's the most dangerous part. From the outside, everything looked fine, better than fine. People told me I was lucky, that I found someone so emotionally intelligent, someone who really gets you. And I nodded, smiled, played my role. But inside, something was shrinking. I stopped trusting my own reactions. Every time I felt uncomfortable, I asked myself if I was overreacting. Every time something felt wrong, I wondered if it was just my past talking. That's what happens when someone knows your wounds. They don't have to hurt you directly. They just let you hurt yourself. The breaking point didn't come from another secret. It came from clarity. One quiet morning, I woke up before her. The room was still. No tension, no conflict, just silence. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something strange, relief, not happiness, not peace, relief. And that terrified me. Because relief shouldn't come from imagining life without someone you love. I sat there, watching her sleep, and asked myself one question. If nothing changes, can I live like this? And my body answered before my mind could. No. The realization didn't make me angry. It made me sad. Not because I was losing her, but because I had lost myself trying to stay. I didn't confront her with a list of accusations. I didn't demand explanations. I simply said I needed space. She didn't argue, didn't fight it. She looked at me and said, "If that's what you need." And for the first time, her calm didn't comfort me. It confirmed everything. I left quietly. No dramatic goodbye. No final speech, just distance. The days after were heavier than I expected. Not because I missed her constantly, but because my mind kept trying to rewrite the story. I remembered her kindness, her patience, her attention. And I wondered if I had imagined everything else. That's the hardest part of leaving something emotionally complex. You don't miss the pain. You miss the familiarity. I questioned myself daily. Was I too sensitive? Did I misunderstand? Did I walk away from something good? But every time I thought about going back, my chest tightened, and I learned to trust that feeling. Healing didn't come all at once. It came in quiet moments, moments where I realized I could think freely again, speak without fear, feel without being analyzed. I noticed how different peace felt compared to control. Peace doesn't require explanation. Control always does. Slowly, I started rebuilding trust, not with someone else, with myself. I stopped sharing everything immediately, not out of fear, but out of discernment. I learned that vulnerability isn't about exposure. It's about intention. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Some people earn it slowly, others never do. And that's okay. I don't regret loving deeply. I don't regret trusting. What I regret is confusing emotional awareness with emotional safety, because someone can understand your pain and still use it. Someone can listen carefully and not care. Someone can say all the right things and mean none of them. If there's one thing this experience taught me, it's this. Love shouldn't feel like you're being studied. Trust shouldn't feel like strategy. And connection shouldn't cost you your sense of self. Some people don't break your heart loudly. They do it quietly, by learning you and then slowly erasing you. Those are the unsaid things, the ones you only understand after you walk away. And once you do, you never give yourself away the same way again.